Hello and welcome to the Quincy Access Television studios. I'm Mark Crosby. Thank you for joining us for Department Profiles, a program that looks at various departments throughout the city and helps you to stay informed and maybe find out something that you didn't know about a particular department. Today we have the outgoing police chief, Paul Keenan, with us. So it's a little different version of Department Profiles. We will talk about his retirement. We will talk about him joining the Quincy Police Department back in the day, and we do have some footage, Chief, that is not black and white, believe it or not, that we will get to as well. So, and we will talk about the future as you're leaving, how you have left the Quincy Police Department, maybe how you found it, and then how you're leaving it. So, Chief, first of all, it's been a pleasure to work with you and your department throughout the years.
It's been a pleasure working with Quincy Access Cable as well. You know, I think it's a good blend. We've done a lot throughout the years together, and I think it's gone well.
And we should mention that we have won some national awards with the Quincy Police Department, specifically with Lieutenant Dan Minton.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. Dan was a presence in the station here and on your shows and your programs for a number of years.
And it's always interesting to see how something plays in a particular city where the Access Center is located, but then to get recognized beyond the city limits, and that could be said for your department as well. That's a whole other level of appreciation.
It is. We've been nationally recognized for our Narcan program. We started the Narcan program, I think it was about 2010, 2011, and it's gone nationwide, and we were honored by Police Executive Research Forum for that, nationally recognized, and that saved thousands of lives over the years. And that's probably one of my prouder moments, was instituting that program with the assistance of Lieutenant Pat Glynn. I brought the idea and I met with some neighbors that their son had an opioid problem, and they said that there's a program out there that they're looking to start up, and it was with the Department of Public Health, and we wound up partnering with them. Pat Glynn, who was a lieutenant at the time of the Drug Control Unit, took charge of that, and it went nationwide. He did a tremendous job nationwide, and it saved thousands of lives, and we were the first in the nation to adopt that program.
Congratulations to you, and I do remember that, and certainly what a way to make a mark. It's sad that it had to get there because of the situation, but there's an example of a solution.
It was a solution, and also it was kind of unique because, and I give the mayor a lot of credit for that as well, because a lot of communities weren't acknowledging, or they wouldn't acknowledge that the drug problem existed. He saw it fairly early on, put together a drug commission. As a result of that, he sent those folks to us to talk to me, and we had a nice conversation, and that's kind of what spawned this thing early on. A lot of the leaders, the political leadership in a lot of communities didn't recognize it, didn't acknowledge it, and basically swept it under the rug because they didn't want to look bad and acknowledge that they had a problem. But it became a real epidemic problem, and I think we were early on. We started developing strategies to help.
We will talk more about your accomplishments in just a moment, but I would like to go to some video that we found in the archives of your swearing in. So folks, we'll go there in just a moment. We'll be back in the studio to talk more with retiring Police Chief Paul Keenan.
I, Joe Shea,
Paul Keenan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I'll bear true faith and allegiance
to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts
to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts
and will support the Constitution thereof.
and will support the Constitution thereof.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I
Paul Keenan,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform all of the duties
discharge and perform all of the duties
incumbent upon me as police chief,
incumbent upon me as police chief,
according to the best of my abilities and understanding,
to the best of my abilities and understanding,
agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution,
agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution,
the laws of this Commonwealth,
the laws of this Commonwealth,
and the ordinances of the city of Quincy.
and the ordinances of the city of Quincy.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I, Joe Shea,
I, Paul Keenan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Chief, that takes you back, does
Yeah,
it not?
It certainly does.
We should mention that Joe Shea, who was the city clerk at the time, did swear you in, and Mayor Tom Koch, of course.
It was a proud day for my family.
Absolutely.
But it was an interesting day. I'm not really a public speaker by nature, and that was the first time I had to give a speech. I was nervous, and I'm still nervous when I do public speaking now, but a little less nervous.
You're not nervous on this show?
No, this
Okay.
is like being home.
Oh, great. Oh, that's great to hear. So let's talk about your career in law enforcement. Why don't we go back to the beginning?
I grew up in Quincy, and I went to Central Middle School, Wollaston School, Central Middle School, and North Quincy High School. After I graduated, I went to college, and then I worked for the ambulance service in Quincy for a number of years, Quincy and Brockton, and I got hired by the Quincy Police Department in 1983, and so this is my 40th year. I'm in my 40th year, and I worked my way up through the ranks. I had a number of different positions throughout the years, and I enjoyed every one of them. I was a detective, I was a patrolman, I was involved in the Superior Officers Union for a number of years, right up until I got sworn in. And then I was a lieutenant, I was a detective lieutenant. I took over as day captain, and I was in charge of the day shift and events, major events. And then eventually in 2008, I became the chief of police.
And how have you seen the city change? Clearly, it's grown over the years in population.
It's grown a tremendous amount in both population and new development, new growth. When I took over, the Quincy Square was really failing. As the chief, when I took over prior to being the chief, Quincy Square was kind of failing. It was spiraling in the wrong direction. Now you can walk down any one of the streets and sidewalks. It's beautiful. It's all done over. It's clean. It's safe, very safe. And I think we're heading in the right direction. I think it continues to grow. The population, I think, was around 89,000 when I got on the police department. I think we're up to about 104, 103, or 104,000. So there's been a lot of growth in the city, a lot of development in the city, and I think it's good growth and it's good development. It remains basically, it's a big city with a small town flair.
You've been through many, many budget sessions. I would assume, you have to present your department. Folks know public safety is important. You don't have to stress that. But with growing numbers and with the potential, we talked about Narcan and drugs, that epidemic, how has the police department budget changed through the years? Were there any lean years during your time as chief?
When I took over in 2008, it was very lean at that point in time. We were actually talking about layoffs. The mayor had convinced the police unions to take a 0% raise for a couple of years, which saved jobs. It was very lean at the time. When I took over, we were about 144 patrol officers. At this point now, we're about 108. We're budgeted for 180. I think we have 181 or 182 because we pre-hired in anticipation that we were going to lose members, officers to retirement. So we've grown about 40 police officers, which it's kept up with the growth and the population growth. So there were a number of lean years. Nothing is ever easy when it comes to budgeting, but it was we were at critical stages at that point in 2008. So it's kind of stabilized an awful lot. With the budget's grown. I don't remember the first number, my first budget, but
You don't?
I do not. But it's about 40 million now. And I'm also pleased to say, and I'm kind of proud that I've come on budget every single year. You make adjustments going through the year to, you cut back a little bit here, or if you get a little extra, you add patrols, and you've got to kind of keep up with the crime trends. But I've always come in under budget, which I'm pleased at.
And you mentioned crime trends. What have you seen, I suppose, throughout the years that, now there's a lot of cyber crimes.
That's
Obviously,
probably the
that
biggest
didn't
increase.
happen back in
No,
2008.
No, not in 2008. When I first came, there wasn't the police department, there wasn't cell phones. The first cell phone I actually saw, and it wasn't really a cell phone, was actually a police walkie-talkie, a radio, where it was one-way conversation. You could type in a phone number, get to a landline if I wanted to call you at the house, and then I'd have to speak and then let go of the button, and then you'd speak, and went back and forth, and it was the detective unit that had it, and I thought, geez, this is like Dick Tracy, this is like Star Wars stuff. And then, eventually it's evolved, and now the technology, a lot of the crimes that we have, and a lot of the victims that we get are cyber, with the cyber frauds, the online harassment, all the myriad of different crimes that go along with computers and with cell phones and that type of thing. So it's changed dramatically that way.
And I suppose talk about, fighting crime, but the importance of educating folks. Because if you can educate folks initially, maybe that crime won't happen.
We do a lot of that, public outreach. A few years ago, I was at the International Chiefs of Police Conference, and I believe it was in Orlando. And I went to a seminar, and they were talking about public PIOs, public information officers, and it was kind of on the forefront. There weren't a lot throughout the country, and I brought that idea back, and we had our first public information officer, Karen Bacchus, and one of her functions, among many, was to get the information. If we saw a crime trend, get it out to the public, for our Facebook page, Instagram pages, our homepage on the computer, our Quincy Police homepage, get the information out and get it to the people that need it so that they can hopefully not become a victim, especially about a lot of the cyber crime. But also if we had a situation where there was a lot of house breaks in a certain area, just kind of target hardening and be aware of what's going on with that. The more information the public has, I think, the safer they are because they can make themselves safer.
We mentioned cyber crimes, but also hate crimes. That's relatively recent.
It's relatively new. Thankfully, we haven't had a rash of hate crimes. It does pop up every once in a while, and that's troubling because you want all the members in your community to feel safe, especially folks with different backgrounds, different religions, different colors, different mindsets. You want to make sure that they're safe as well.
And I suppose talk about folks, patrol officers, community police officers, and the importance of that. Now, community police officers were in existence when you took over?
We did have a community police unit. It was a little bit smaller, and it was interacted with the public in a different way. They were assigned to the wards. The wards counselors would reach out to them if they had an issue, and it's kind of expanded an awful lot now. We just do different things. We went from when I started in 1983, we were a warrior mentality. You made arrests, then that's what you did. You didn't solve problems. You kind of made the arrest, quelled the disturbance or whatever it may have been going on at the time, and then you moved on. Now we've got kind of a guardian mentality where you try and guard the public. You try and assist them with mental health issues, with addiction issues. It's more service oriented, and the community police played a big part in that role. And now it's been expanded to more community service. We've got an embedded clinician now, a mental health clinician that was just approved through the council in my most recent budget. But he was on a grant from the district attorney's office for a couple of years. Now he's a permanent employee of the city, funded through a grant, and he does a lot of outreach with our community police officers. Like if you've had an overdose at a certain residence, they'll go the next day with basically a kit offering any kind of assistance to the family that they might need to have them be able to deal with it, allow them to be able to deal with it, and also potentially get help for the person that overdosed.
I suppose talk about the importance of mental health recognition and how addressing that could, again, keep people safe.
There's a couple of mindsets. Most of the folks that are homeless in the city or that live at Father Bill's, a lot of them have mental health issues. And a lot of that, if you can get to them and get them the assistance that they need, it makes them safer and it makes our officers safer. Because throughout the country, a lot of the police-involved shootings and interactions with the police are mental health issues, and they can go either way because you really can't control it. You have to understand it. We've done an extensive amount of training throughout the years on mental health and how to deal with mental health issues and people that are experiencing mental health crises. So we've done quite a bit of outreach and also training on that. And a lot of it, the training is de-escalation. How to de-escalate, how to speak with these people logically and get them to either calm down or get them the help that they need so it doesn't escalate into violence. And that's the goal for their safety as well as the officers' safety.
During your time as chief, you've had to deal with the perception of police officers, and that changing nationwide. That's been an issue. Hasn't been that way in the city of Quincy, fortunately, but still, obviously, if it's an issue nationwide, it's an issue that you would be aware of.
We did have a number of demonstrations early on after the Floyd issue. We did have a number of issues and we did have a number of protests, but I think a credit to our officers, the way they handled themselves during that critical time speaks volumes to the way the Quincy Police respond to a lot of those kind of issues. One day early on in that there was a protest planned in Quincy, and I was saddened to drive through Quincy and see the businesses boarding up their storefronts because they were afraid. There was an issue in Boston just prior to the protest in Quincy, and a lot of the merchants were afraid that their businesses would be harmed or destroyed or whatever, like it happened in Boston a little bit. And it was a sad day to watch these people putting up boards over their windows, but the protest went well. We met with the organizers. We came to an agreement that keep everybody safe, keep everybody organized, let them have their opportunity to express themselves, and it went so well. And we had 2 or 3, large-scale protests. And I think the way it was handled, I think we were able to get through that dark period of time and come out on top. And I think we were better for it.
We should mention, too, that there was reason for folks to be angry throughout the country. There were instances where officers overstepped, and I use that term lightly because, I mean, there were deaths involved.
Yes. Yep.
Clearly there were issues. Clearly in any profession there are people that don't do the job well.
A lot of them are isolated incidents. They get sensationalized, which then creates the narrative throughout the country. A lot of places were dealing with that. I think one of the reasons that it didn't happen in Quincy, and it was a little bit less up in the Northeast region, we educate our police officers. We train them, we educate them, we're constantly training, keeping them updated on the laws, but also, how to handle different people, different situations. So I think a lot of that is a credit to the police departments in the Northeast. We do extensive backgrounds on these. There are police officers throughout the country that shouldn't be police officers, but unfortunately you have to take police officers from the human race. So you sometimes do get flawed individuals, but we vet these people as best we can. We do backgrounds on them. We do a psychologist review of them, physical reviews. They do physical ability test, and we extensively vet these people. But even doing that, sometimes you just get the wrong person in the wrong position.
Understood. Talk about collaborations with other cities and towns, with associations, with the Norfolk County Sheriff.
Actually, we've got great relationships with all those organizations. We reach out where we're engaged with the Norfolk County District Attorney, Michael Morrissey. We have a lot of programs that we share with him. He's always been very supportive. He does support the embedded clinician that we had through a grant. So we've got great relationships with him. We're also very active with Boston. We train with their SWAT officers continuously. We use their bomb squad. They use us for parades. We were always in Boston for the Red Sox parade, for the St. Patrick's Day parade. Our bicycle unit goes in there. We're also part of the Metrolec unit, which is basically the whole region. We provide a Marine unit. If you had a drowning, say for example in Franklin, our Marine unit would go and assist them. We have a piece of equipment called the side scanning sonar that we've used a number of times throughout the Commonwealth. Basically, it's an underwater X-ray machine, essentially, that can help us find a person that's drowned, a body that's drowned. We've used that in Boston Harbor. We've used it in various lakes and ponds throughout the state. So we're really actively engaged with all of those outside units. And it's always one of these things. We're always willing to help. We're always there for them if they need us, and they're always there for us should something go really wrong.
What makes Quincy unique? Anything in particular, or is
like
Quincy,
logistically, or is it police-wise, or
I suppose police-wise?
We're unique in the sense that we're part of actually another group called UASI. It's the Urban Area Security Initiative, and it's a funding source for all kinds of equipment and grants and that type of thing. And it's 9 communities surrounding Boston. That happened after 9/11. They got together and they put money into areas that they thought needed to be tightened up. So through that, we have a 3 or 4 boat marine unit. We have a dive team, a scuba diving team for recoveries and that type of thing, and evidence recoveries, human recoveries and evidence recoveries. We've got a SWAT team. We've got a crisis negotiation team, just to name a few. And we got that grant funding. We have a grant writer, a full-time grant writer that works with us, Sergeant Christine Hurton. And she does a tremendous job seeking out grant opportunities and bringing money into the department and into the city so that we can expand some of those units and keep those units up and running, because they are kind of critical. We're a large city, and we have the 27 miles of coastline, so we do need to be able to patrol that. So we kind of use that through the grant funding. Along with intelligence units that we get, we share information with Boston Police Department and the other 9 communities. So it's a pretty good blend to be able to get all those services to the citizens of Quincy.
When I took a tour of the existing police station a while back, I think the most up-to-date section of that building was the communication department.
Correct.
Probably rightfully so. Talk about the proposed public safety headquarters. Beyond proposed, it's actually in production.
Yes.
And unfortunately, you won't be chief.
Yeah,
during
that's a regret
point.
that I have. I was hoping that the timetable hadn't been moved up, and then, of course, with delays, construction delays, it's always late. But that's going to be exciting for the city. I think it's going to be a showpiece. The mayor does a good job on all these projects that he engages in, and I think it's going to be a showplace. I'm excited to see that we'll have a proper amount of space to train in, updated equipment, updated areas that we can process different evidence equipment. We'll have a storage unit, like an up-to-date, modern area for our evidence. I think there'll be nice public space in there. We're going to have a big training center. We'll also have some public space for civic events, if like a flu clinic and things like that. We are going to bring in dispatch, and the effort, I think, is going to be a joint dispatch with the fire. They're still working through that with the unions, but with the fire and the police in the same spot, in the same space in the building, so the communications will be greatly enhanced. Also, it's anticipated that emergency management will have space in there, so if there was a major event, we could all come together in one area and be able to handle it.
And how unique is that as far as other communities having a similar setup?
It's becoming more and more prevalent, and it's the right way to go, so that everybody basically is in the same area making decisions together, unified decisions. And the dispatch center is the planned, proposed dispatch center is going to be a state-of-the-art, everything, because we answer all our own 911 calls. They come directly, they don't go through the state anymore. So if someone uses a cell phone in the middle of Quincy Square, we answer that call instead of routing it through the state police. So that's grown. The call volume has grown exponentially. So that, with looking forward to further growth, they're building that station out for like a 100-year station. And ours is almost 100 years as it is, but it wasn't built for it. And they're heading in the right direction.
So I guess we'll talk a little bit about that. You're obviously leaving after how many years of service?
40.
40 years of service. So how do you feel that you're leaving the Quincy Police Department?
I think we're in great shape as a police department. Everything's clicking. We're all clicking on all cylinders. I think we're in good shape with the manpower issue, a man or woman power issue. The building is going forward. That's a positive. Our fleet is in good shape. Regulations, rules and regulations, our policy is in great shape. Going forward, all of our offices the training is in place, the programs and systems are in place. I think we're at a very good place now. I think we've grown since I became a police officer 40 years ago, and B, since I took over as chief, we've been working towards getting the place in order. And I feel very comfortable leaving the helm, handing over the helm of the police department to Mark Kennedy. He's well positioned. He's a smart guy. He's a very personable guy. He's very intelligent guy. He's an attorney, and I think it's going to be a seamless transition. I know we've been working together for the last couple of weeks. And once he was named the police chief, we started working together, and I'll bring him up to speed. And he's got some great new ideas. So I think going forward, I feel very comfortable that the citizens are going to be very well served. I think they have been. Not to pat my own back, but I think they have been, and it's a credit to these young men and women. I went to a captain retired today, Captain Steele, after around 30 years of service, and we looked around the room, and all these young, gave a little speech, and we walk out, they shake hands, and it's kind of a heartwarming moment. But looking around at some of the young faces, I'm like, wow, I barely know some of these kids, So it's changing, but it's changing for the better.
And is it hard to retire?
It is. It's going to be a big change. The police department's been so much a part of my life for 40 years is all I've really done. So I'm looking forward to it in a way, But I'm also going to miss being in the middle of the mix and the action and, making decisions. The police chief isn't really a police officer anymore. You're making decisions, setting in place policies, it's all decision making. It's not really, you're not running around out in the public and, dealing with as much, but we have officers that do that. And you want to make sure you provide them with the training and the skill set and the equipment to be able to accomplish their job, it's a difficult job. Policing is a very difficult job. It's changed so much from the guardian for the warrior to the guardian. You encounter so many different situations.
We didn't even talk about body cameras, but clearly that has come to be, wasn't so in 2008.
Correct. They became more prevalent after the Floyd situation. I was never a proponent of body cameras. I hate the thought of it. I hate the idea of it because I believe that police are honest men and women that should be inherently believed. Unfortunately, the times have changed so much that it's probably a requirement now to do that, and it actually protects the officers more than it does, the citizens, or as much as the citizens, because we know that we have it, and we know that we have to handle ourselves in the right way. It just goes against the grain a little bit for me, but I think it's a lot of the police departments throughout the country, and the Commonwealth in particular, a lot of the unions are requesting body cameras. I didn't have the time to get into that because it kind of came towards the end, and it takes, some negotiations with the unions to be able to set policies and procedures in place. It also requires a lot of funding. A lot of the body cameras requires a ton of storage, and it's expensive to do that. So we're heading in that direction. I don't know what the new chief feels about that, but I think that that's one of the things that have changed in policing that I don't agree with, but it's, I think, a necessary evil.
And I guess when we talk education, or when we talked education a while back, and it's popped up obviously throughout this program, DARE has always been a fixture in Quincy and with the Quincy Police Department.
It has. We've kept it. There was a DARE program before I took over as chief, and I've funded it and kept it since. I think it's a worthwhile program. If you can get into the head of one young child and prevent potential drug use down the line, you're doing your job. But I think also it projects a very good image of the police department. It's just one part of a community policing effort. A lot of cities and towns have kind of done away with it. But I think as much as getting their message out, an anti-drug message out from the offices, it also gets the kids involved with the police department and becoming part of the community and understanding what we do and kind of projecting a good image, especially at a young age. I think it sets the tone at a young age. So I think it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Kids are very impressionable, as we all know.
They are, and I was just actually talking with Don Sauter, our DARE officer, just prior to getting here this morning, and he was thankful for continuing the DARE program, and I said, I think it works. The people that are in college now, graduating college, are saying, "Oh, I remember Officer Don," and the positive message that they project, and I think it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Well, Chief, thank you once again for your service to the city of Quincy.
Thank you.
And certainly wish you the best in retirement.
Thanks.
We will end with some video of the recent Flag Day parade and you as the Grand Marshal.
Yeah, that was actually a very special night for my family and I. I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I would. I had marched in that parade for most of my career, but I had never actually seen the parade because we finished the march first and then we go up the hill for the ceremony. So this enabled me to be able to actually watch the parade, and it was really good. It's very good.
It's enjoyed by so many folks.
It really
has been
is.
throughout the years. So Chief, thank you once again, and for you at home, you will see our Grand Marshal in the Quincy Flag Day Parade as we close this episode of Department Profiles.
Police Chief Paul Keenan, who will be retiring this summer after a 40-year career with the Quincy Police Department. He's recognized as Grand Marshal of today's Flag Day Parade, and what an honor for him.
There he is with his family.
Yep. What an honor.